3 weeks after first contact, a large group of council representatives arrived in human space. The meeting place was a new station built quickly by both sides as a sign of good faith. The humans called it Hope Station. The council sent representatives from 12 different species. High Chancellor Vornus came himself, showing how serious this was. But the humans had their own surprise ready. President Daniel Cooper, the elected leader of Earth's government, had traveled from Earth on the assault carrier USS Independence. He brought Secretary of Defense Linda Hayes and Chief of Naval Operations Admiral Frank Morris. The Independence stayed at a distance, but its presence sent a message. Humanity was taking this very seriously. In the main meeting hall of Hope Station, the two groups met for formal talks. The room was designed to work for different species with different gravity zones and air types. President Cooper stood to speak. He was tall, in his 50s, with gray hair and a calm way of talking, but his voice had strength in it. Honored representatives of the Galactic Council, thank you for meeting with us. The chance to join a community of civilized species is something humanity has dreamed about for a long time. However, I want to talk about the obvious problem. The translators had trouble with his phrase, but his assistant Alex Turner quickly explained it better. I know you're afraid of us, Cooper continued. You've seen our weapons, our ships, our history of war. And you're right to be careful. We are dangerous, but being dangerous is not the same as being a threat. High Chancellor Vornus responded, his crystal body bending the station's lights. President Cooper, the Council appreciates your honesty, but we must ask a basic question. Your civilization has military technology far beyond what we think is needed for defense. Even one of your warships has more destructive power than our combined fleets. How can we trust you won't use this power to attack others? Cooper nodded like he expected this question. Chancellor, let me answer with a question. In your thousands of years of peace, has your civilization never faced danger from outside? No hostile aliens, no pirates, no criminal groups? Ambassador Telvin answered, we have. But we've always solved such problems through talking, or rarely, through limited defense. We've never needed weapons of mass destruction. That's because you've been lucky, Admiral Morris said. Your species evolved in safe places. You developed technology in a stable part of the galaxy. You had time to become peaceful. We didn't have that luxury. He turned on a holographic display showing Earth. This is our homeworld. It's a Class 4 death world by your system. Everything on that planet tries to kill everything else. The air is harsh. The sun's radiation is deadly. The ground shakes and breaks apart. The native life is aggressive and competitive. We didn't choose to evolve there. We just had to survive it. The display showed human evolution in fast motion. The council representatives watched in growing horror as they saw the endless predators, diseases, disasters, and dangers that shaped humanity. We developed aggression because we needed it, Morris continued. We created advanced weapons because the universe kept throwing new threats at us. By the time we could leave our planet, war was already part of our culture. But here's what you need to understand. We also developed the ability to control that aggression. Secretary Hayes stood up. May I share something personal? My grandfather fought in World War II. He saw friends die. He killed enemy soldiers. He saw the atomic bombs that ended the war. When he came home, he spent his life working for peace. He became a teacher, taught history, made sure every student understood the cost of war. That's humanity, Chancellor. We can be violent, but we also choose peace. An ambassador from the Quarren species spoke up. Your words are moving, Secretary Hayes. But words are easy. How can you prove you want peace? President Cooper smiled. By showing you something we've kept secret. Admiral Nash. Admiral Nash stepped forward. 3 years ago, before we met any of you, we found a signal from deep space. It was clearly made by intelligent beings, and it was a distress call. The display changed to show a strange ship that looked organic. We sent a ship to check. We found a disabled alien vessel from a species we'd never seen. They called themselves the Xiphons. Their ship had broken down badly and they were dying. The council representatives leaned forward, very interested. We could have ignored them, Nash continued. We could have taken their technology and left them to die. Instead, we saved them. All 47 survivors. We fixed their ship with their help. We gave them supplies, and then we let them go. The Xiphons went home and told their people about us, Cooper added. They wanted to contact us to say thank you, but we weren't ready. We needed to be sure we could defend ourselves before we told the galaxy about us, so we asked them to wait, and they did. He pressed a button and a door opened. 3 aliens walked in, very different from any council species. They were tall and looked like insects with many arms and compound eyes. Ambassador Telvin gasped. Xiphons, but your species is from the far edge of the galaxy, thousands of light years away. How did you get here? The lead Xiphon spoke through a translator. Its voice sounded like wind chimes. We are here because our friends the humans asked us to come. High Chancellor Vornis, council members, we can tell you about these beings. When we were helpless, they helped us. When we were weak, they protected us. They asked for nothing back. This is not how hostile species act. The council fell silent in shock. Finally, Vornis spoke. Why didn't you tell us about this right away? Because we wanted you to judge us on our own, Cooper replied. Not because we had witnesses, but because you understood who we are. Yes, we're dangerous. Yes, we have powerful weapons. But we also have compassion, honor, and a strong desire to be part of something bigger than ourselves. A small Velcarian diplomat named Kira spoke up nervously. President Cooper, may I ask a question that troubles many of us? Of course. Your military is so large, so powerful. You have multiple fleets, thousands of ships, weapons that could destroy planets. Why? If you truly want peace, why not get rid of the weapons? Cooper's face grew serious. Ambassador Kira, let me tell you about something in human history called the Long Peace. For decades, 2 great powers on Earth had nuclear weapons that could destroy all human life. And yet, despite many conflicts, those weapons were never used in war again after 1945. Do you know why? Kira shook her head. Because both sides knew that if they used them, they would be destroyed too. We call it mutually assured destruction, and it's a terrible idea. But it worked. The weapons were so terrible that having them prevented their use. We learned that strength used properly keeps peace better than weakness. So you maintain military power to prevent war? Vornis asked. Exactly, Cooper confirmed. We know what war costs. We've paid that price many times. We keep a strong defense not because we want to fight, but because we want to make sure no one wants to fight us. Peace through strength, Chancellor. It's not perfect, but it works for us. The council talked among themselves for several minutes. Finally, Vornis spoke again. President Cooper, the council needs time to discuss this, but I'll be honest. What you've shown us today has changed things. You're more dangerous than we thought, but also more trustworthy. The Xiphon testimony means a lot. We understand, Chancellor, Cooper replied. Take the time you need. Whether or not you accept us, we're here to stay. We'd prefer to be neighbors and friends. But we'll settle for peaceful coexistence if that's all possible. As the meeting ended, Ambassador Telvin approached President Cooper privately. That was bold. Bringing the Xiphons, Telvin said quietly. Cooper smiled. I wanted the council to know we're serious about peace, serious enough to prove it. It may not be enough, Telvin warned. Some species will never trust you. I know, Cooper said. But I'm not trying to convince everyone. Just enough of the reasonable ones like you. The council chamber was enormous. It floated in space like a giant bubble with no gravity inside. Representatives from 47 different alien species floated in their special sections. Each species looked completely different from the others. Some had scales, some had fur, some were made of crystal. They all had one thing in common, though. They were about to hear news that would frighten them. High Chancellor Vornis called the emergency meeting to order. He was very tall and made of living crystal that bent light into rainbow colors. When he spoke, his voice was translated into every language instantly. We are here because the Velcarian delegation has urgent news. Commander Zethra, please share what you found. Zethra floated into the center of the chamber. She could feel everyone watching her. She activated her computer and a huge image of the USS Endeavour appeared for everyone to see. 3 days ago, my ship found an unknown vessel. We scanned it completely. What we discovered is very dangerous. The chamber became silent. The word dangerous was rarely used here. The council had lived in peace for 2,000 years. The image zoomed in to show the human ship's power core. This ship uses fusion power. The energy it makes is 15 times more than our safety rules allow. The system that holds it together is basic. They're basically flying around in a bomb that could explode. Ambassador Krell of the Cracks spoke up. He was a warrior from a strong military species. Fusion power is old technology. Dangerous, yes, but not special. Why did you call an emergency? Meeting? Zethra changed the image to show the weapons. Because that's just the start. This ship has guns that shoot metal bullets using explosives, inside a sealed ship. They've turned their own vessel into a gun that flies through space. Sounds of shock filled the chamber. Different species made different noises, but they all meant the same thing: fear. It gets worse, Zethra continued. Their energy weapons don't use particles or plasma like ours. They've weaponized electromagnetic radiation itself. Their missiles carry bombs that use atomic reactions. They've made weapons from the same reactions that power their ships. High Chancellor Vornis leaned forward. Surely no living being could operate these systems. The radiation alone would kill them. They are living beings, Zethra said quietly. We found over 300 life signs on that ship. They breathe oxygen like many of us. But they can survive in conditions that would kill most species in hours. She showed more data. They live with background radiation that is deadly to us. Their home planet has an atmosphere that would eat through our ship hulls. Their sun hits them with dangerous radiation constantly, and they just evolved to handle it. Ambassador Lyra from the peaceful Quarren species spoke up. Her voice was soft and musical. You make them sound like monsters, Commander. But did they attack you? Did they threaten you? No, Zethra admitted. They noticed our scan and went on alert, but they didn't shoot. However, what worries me is not what they did. It's what they can do. These beings have turned everything around them into weapons. Their ship isn't built for exploring or trading. It's built to fight and win. While the council argued, a Valkyrian intelligence analyst named Mara was working in a small office on the station. She had access to all the scan data. What she was finding made the council's worries seem small. She pulled up the biological information about the humans and started searching through historical databases. She was looking for species that evolved in dangerous places, species that were unusually tough, species that built advanced technology despite being fragile creatures. What she found was terrifying. Humans came from what the computer called a Class 4 death world. Only 3 other known species had evolved on worlds that dangerous. 2 of those species had destroyed themselves in wars before they ever reached space. But humans hadn't just survived their death world. They had become masters of it. Their history showed they were predators who could chase prey for days without stopping. Their bodies could work in temperatures that would shut down most species. They could go without food or water for long periods. They healed from injuries that would kill other beings. And their minds were equally impressive and frightening. Humans formed strong bonds with their groups. They could cooperate beautifully or fight viciously. Their history was full of wars that killed millions, yet somehow they had learned to control their violence enough to reach the stars. Mara wrote a report and marked it urgent for the council. They needed to know what kind of species they were dealing with. Back in the council chamber, the argument was getting heated. Some wanted to send military ships to contain the humans. Others wanted to try talking to them peacefully. High Chancellor Vornis raised his hand for silence. We will not rush into decisions. I suggest we send ambassadors to meet these humans. We will learn their intentions through talking. But until we know more, all ships should stay away from their territory. This meeting is over. As the council members left, Vornis stayed behind. He stared at the image of the human warship floating in front of him. Something about it bothered him deeply. It was so efficient at destruction, so perfectly designed for war. What kind of galaxy creates beings like this? He whispered to himself. Far away, on Earth, military leaders were having their own meeting. Admiral William Nash sat at a large table with other high-ranking officers. They were discussing the encounter in space. Someone scanned the Endeavor and then ran away. Nash said, "This means we're not alone. It also means whoever found us was scared of what they saw." General Paul Stevens spoke up. "Should we be worried, sir? If they were scared enough to run, they might come back with friends." "That's exactly why I called this meeting," Nash replied. "We need to be ready for contact, peaceful contact, I hope, but we need to be prepared for anything." "What if they're hostile?" asked another officer. Nash looked around the table at his fellow officers. "Then we show them why it was smart to be scared. But let's hope it doesn't come to that. We've fought enough wars on Earth. I'd rather make friends out there in space." Back at the council station, Mara's report finally reached High Chancellor Vornis. He read it in his private office, and with each page he felt more concerned. These humans were survivors from a nightmare world. They had clawed their way up from the bottom of a deadly food chain to become spacefaring beings. They had survived ice ages, plagues, wars, and disasters that would have ended most civilizations. Vornis made a note to himself. When the ambassadors met the humans, they needed to be very careful, not because humans were evil, but because they were capable of great destruction. The question was whether they would choose to use that capability for good or for evil. Only time would answer that question. 2 more human ships had joined the USS Endeavour. The destroyer USS Valiant was commanded by Captain Greg Patterson. The heavy cruiser USS Constitution was commanded by Captain Helen Carter. Admiral William Nash had come personally on his flagship to oversee what could be the most important event in human history. The 3 captains met in a room on the Constitution. A holographic display showed the alien ship that was coming toward them. "It's the same type of ship that scanned us before," Jake explained, pointing at the energy patterns. "But this one is broadcasting messages on many different frequencies. The computer thinks it might be trying to talk to us." Helen Carter had been in the Navy for 20 years. She had commanded many ships. She studied the alien vessel carefully. "It doesn't have obvious weapons. The design looks like it's meant for science or diplomacy. If they wanted a fight, they would have brought bigger guns. Or maybe they don't know what a real fight with us looks like," Greg Patterson added. He was younger but very smart about tactics. "We need to be ready if this goes wrong." Admiral Nash walked into the room. Everyone stood up, but he waved for them to sit. "I just talked to Fleet Command and the Secretary of Defense. Our orders are clear. Make peaceful contact, but don't tell them everything about our military or where Earth is." "Sir, they already scanned the Endeavour," Jake said. "They know what we can do." "They know what one destroyer can do, Captain. They don't know about our carriers, our defense systems, or how many ships we have. Let's keep it that way until we understand who we're dealing with." The alien ship was called the Harmony. Ambassador Telvin was in command. He was from the Alterian species, tall and made of crystal. He had volunteered for this mission even though many on the council were afraid. He believed that understanding was better than fear. "All stations start the greeting," Telvin ordered. "Try all known ways of communication. We're here to make friends, not to scare them." On the Constitution, Lieutenant Amy Foster looked up with surprise. "Admiral, we're getting something." "It's music, music!" Nash raised an eyebrow. "Yes, sir. Different kinds of music. And math problems, pictures of atoms, images. They're trying everything to talk to us." Helen Carter smiled a little. "Smart. Try everything and see what we respond to. Amy, send back our own package. Include Earth music, basic math, and pictures of humans doing peaceful things. Let's show them we're civilized even if we have big guns." Over the next 6 hours, the 2 ships sent information back and forth. They used math as a common language and built on it. It was rough, but they could communicate. The first translated message from the Harmony said this: "Greetings from the Galactic Council. We come in peace and friendship. We wish to understand you." Jake, speaking for the humans, recorded a reply: "Greetings from humanity and the Terran Navy. We also come in peace. We welcome friendship and understanding." Ambassador Telvin felt relieved when he got the message. They could talk. That was the first important step. But when they started sharing cultural and historical information, Telvin's relief turned to horror. He watched human history unfold on his screens. World War I, where millions died in trenches. World War II, where entire cities were bombed flat. The atomic bombs dropped on Japan. The Cold War, where humans had enough nuclear weapons to destroy their planet many times over. Then he saw what humans did after these disasters. They didn't destroy themselves. They created the United Nations. They made international laws. They reached for space not despite their violent past, but because they had learned from it. "They're survivors," his science officer said quietly. "Every time they fell down, they got back up stronger." Telvin looked at the image of Earth floating in space. It looked peaceful and blue from far away. But the history showed the truth. This was a planet that had made its people tough through fire and blood, and those people had decided to be better than their history. He made a choice. "Send a message. Ask for a face-to-face meeting. It's time we met these humans in person. Admiral Nash read the request carefully. They want to meet. A shuttle between ships, neutral ground, small groups from both sides. Could be a trap, Greg warned. Could be, Nash agreed. But if we say no, we lose our chance to really connect with them. Helen, Jake, you're coming with me. We're going to meet our neighbors. 12 hours later, in a cargo bay on the Constitution that had been quickly set up as a meeting room, 5 humans stood on one side and 5 aliens on the other. Ambassador Telvin stepped forward first. Through his translator, his voice sounded warm. Admiral Nash, on behalf of the Galactic Council, I welcome you. This is a historic moment. Nash stepped forward and held out his hand. He hoped this gesture would be seen as friendly. Ambassador Telvin, on behalf of humanity, thank you for reaching out. We've wondered for a long time if we were alone. I'm glad we're not. Telvin looked at the hand, quickly asked his science officer about human gestures, and then reached out with his own 3-fingered hand. They shook hands. The touch lasted only a second, but in that moment both sides realized something important. They were more alike than different. Both were explorers. Both were trying to survive in a huge and sometimes hostile universe. Both wanted peace. But as they talked more about their civilizations, Telvin began to understand the challenge ahead. Admiral, I must ask a hard question, Telvin said carefully. Your weapons, your ships, everything suggests you're preparing for war. Yet you speak of peace. How do we understand this? Nash was quiet for a moment, choosing his words carefully. Ambassador, we have a saying on Earth, if you want peace, prepare for war. We've learned through hard experience that the universe isn't always friendly. We build strong defenses not because we want to fight, but because we want to make sure we never have to fight from a weak position. But the weapons you have could destroy entire civilizations, Telvin said. And we pray we never use them that way, Helen Carter added. But yes, we can cause terrible destruction. We've done terrible things to each other. The question isn't what we can do, Ambassador. It's what we choose to do with that ability. Telvin studied the 3 human officers. They looked similar to his own people in many ways, but there was something in their eyes. A hardness from surviving in conditions he could barely imagine. I believe you, he said finally. But the Council might not. They're afraid of you. Jake spoke up for the first time. With respect, Ambassador, they should be. Not because we want to hurt anyone, but because fear creates caution and caution creates respect. We'd rather have your respect and friendship than your fear. But if fear keeps everyone honest and peaceful, we can work with that too. The blunt honesty shocked Telvin, but he also saw the wisdom in it. These humans understood power in a way the peaceful Council species had forgotten over centuries of peace. Then let me help you understand the Council, Telvin said, and maybe together we can find a way forward that doesn't end in war. The meeting went on late into the night. Both sides learned that despite their differences and fears, communication was possible. Understanding was possible. And if understanding was possible, then maybe peace was too. The alien ship moved quietly through space. Commander Zethra sat at her control station, watching the empty darkness outside. Her research vessel had been in this area for 3 days now. She was studying rocks and stars, writing down information about radiation and gravity. It was boring work, but someone had to do it. Nothing interesting ever happened out here. That's what Zethra thought until her screen started flashing. A new signal appeared on her sensors. Something big was moving through space nearby. Zethra leaned forward, her eyes growing wide. The computer couldn't identify what it was. This was strange. The Galactic Council had records of every ship design from every known civilization, but this one was different. Officer Dren, come look at this, Zethra called out. Dren walked over to her station. He was tall and thin with 4 fingers on each hand. He started checking the data, moving his hands quickly across the controls. His face changed color, turning slightly blue. In his species, this meant he was worried. I confirm it, Commander. There's a ship out there. A big one. I've never seen anything like it before. The power coming from that ship is huge, too huge. Zethra felt her heart beating faster. She pressed a button and the main screen turned on. Now they could see the unknown ship. It was ugly. That was the first thing Zethra thought. The ship was all angles and hard edges. It looked like someone had built it just for fighting. Her people built ships that were smooth and curved, ships that looked beautiful as they flew through space. This ship looked dangerous. Start a deep scan, Zethra ordered. I want to know everything about that ship. Who built it, how it works, and what it's doing here. The scanning equipment hummed to life. Invisible beams of energy shot out from the Valkyrian vessel, washing over the unknown ship. The strange vessel kept moving forward, not knowing it was being watched. On the human ship, Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge drinking coffee. He was reading reports from the day. His second-in-command, Commander Lisa Grant, walked up to him with a small computer tablet. "Captain, we're getting some weird readings. Might be nothing, but there's something out there." Jake put down his coffee cup and walked over to the sensor station. Lieutenant Ben Hughes was sitting there, looking confused at his screens. "What do you have, Ben?" Jake asked. "It's strange, sir. I keep picking up something from that direction, but it disappears and comes back. The computer thinks it's an error, but I don't think so. Something is definitely out there." Jake looked at the data carefully. He had been in the Navy for 15 years. He knew when something felt wrong. "Put everyone on alert. Get all crew members to their stations and figure out what that thing is." Ben nodded and started working faster. Back on the alien ship, the scanning was almost complete. Officer Dren was staring at his screen in horror. His skin had turned dark blue now, a sign of real fear. "Commander, you need to see this right now," Dren said quietly. The computer showed them what was inside the human ship. Zethra felt cold fear wash over her. This wasn't just a ship with some weapons. This was a weapon that happened to be shaped like a ship. Every part of it was designed to destroy things. The power source alone scared her. It was a fusion reactor, the same kind of dangerous energy that her people had stopped using thousands of years ago. It was too unstable, too risky. But these beings were using it to power their ship. They were flying around in a barely controlled explosion. "These readings can't be right," Zethra said, but her voice shook. She knew they were right. Dren pulled up more information. "Commander, there are living things inside that ship. Hundreds of them. Whatever built this ship is actually inside it, controlling it themselves." "That's impossible," Zethra said. "Nothing could survive in there. The acceleration forces would kill any living thing. The radiation from that power core would be deadly." "But they're not just surviving," Dren said, his voice shaking. "According to our scans, they're healthy. Their bodies can take punishment that would kill us. They shouldn't be possible." Zethra made a quick decision. "Send all this data to the Galactic Council immediately. Mark it as urgent. Then we're leaving. Right now." "Commander, shouldn't we try to make contact?" "No," Zethra said firmly. "We report this and let the Council decide what to do. I'm not getting any closer to that thing." On the human ship, Ben Hughes looked up suddenly. "Captain, that ghost signal is moving. It's leaving fast. Really fast." Jake nodded slowly. "Stand down the alert, but keep tracking it. And Ben, write down everything that happened here. I want a complete record." "Yes, sir." Jake watched the unknown contact disappear from their sensors. Something had been watching them. Something that ran away when it realized the humans knew it was there. That wasn't the behavior of a friendly explorer. But it wasn't openly hostile either. "Lisa, send a message to Fleet Command. Tell them we had contact with an unknown vessel. Include all the sensor data we have." "Right away, Captain," Lisa said. As Jake looked out at the stars, he wondered what they had just encountered. Whoever they were, they had seemed scared of a single human destroyer. That was interesting and maybe a little concerning. The alien ship jumped into faster than light travel, racing away from the human vessel. Zethra sat back in her chair, her hands still shaking slightly. She kept seeing the scan results in her mind. That power core that could explode at any moment. Those weapons that could destroy entire cities. Those living creatures inside who somehow survived in conditions that would kill any civilized being. "How far away are we from Council space?" Zethra asked. 2 days at maximum speed," Dren replied. "Then push the engines as hard as they'll go. I want to deliver this report in person." As both ships moved away from each other, neither crew realized how important this moment was. The galaxy was about to change. Humanity had been discovered, and nothing would ever be the same again. The unknown beings on that warship were humans. They came from a world that the computer would soon classify as a death world. They had evolved in one of the most dangerous places in the galaxy. They had built weapons that scared even the bravest warriors. They had technology that seemed crazy and reckless. But most importantly, they were no longer alone in the universe, and soon everyone would know about them. The question was simple. Would humanity be welcomed as friends, or feared as threats? Only time would tell. 6 months had passed since the meeting at Hope Station. and the galaxy had changed in ways nobody expected. The Galactic Council's vote had been close. 23 species voted to accept humanity, 19 voted against, and 5 didn't vote either way. It wasn't the overwhelming support humans hoped for, but it was enough. Humanity got temporary membership in the Galactic Council. They would be reviewed again after 10 years to see if they could become full members. But the real changes were happening far from the council meetings. Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the Endeavor. His ship was now part of a mixed team with ships from 3 other council species. Their job was to patrol the frontier areas where pirates had operated freely for decades. Lieutenant Ben Hughes looked up from his station. "Contact, Captain. 3 ships matching the profile of raiders who attacked the Valkyrian colony last month." "Sound battle stations," Jake ordered calmly. "Signal our partners." Within moments, the Valkyrian ship Serenity and the Alterian ship Crystal Wind replied. But both ships moved into defensive positions, staying back. Commander Lisa Grant frowned. "They're not engaging, Captain," Jake understood. The council species had little experience with real fighting. Their way was to watch, wait, and call for help. They weren't cowards. They just weren't ready for what humans considered a normal fight. "Helm, move closer to weapons range. Tactical, prepare a warning shot. Let's give them a chance to surrender." The Endeavor surged forward, its fusion drive pushing it to speeds that made the other ships look like they were standing still. The pirates saw a single human ship coming toward them and made a terrible mistake. They opened fire. The battle, if you could call it that, lasted 90 seconds. The Endeavor's defense system shot down the pirates' missiles easily. Its railguns fired a warning shot that destroyed an asteroid 3 kilometers away, showing what would happen if the pirates didn't give up. When one pirate ship tried to run, a single missile from the Endeavor caught it and disabled it without destroying it completely. The other 2 pirate ships surrendered immediately. On the Serenity, Commander Zethra watched in amazement. "Did you see that? They stopped a threat that would have needed a full battle group, and they did it alone in less than 2 minutes. Her tactical officer nodded slowly. The humans weren't lying about their abilities. If anything, they were holding back. Jake opened communication to the other ships. "All ships, we have 3 disabled vessels. We need help boarding them and securing the pirates for transport to council custody." The Valkyrian and Alterian ships moved in. Their crews were both grateful and somewhat scared by what they had seen. On Earth, Ambassador Rachel Kim reviewed reports from across human space. She felt both satisfied and worried. Trade agreements were being signed quickly. Council species wanted human manufacturing, human medicine, and human entertainment. In return, they offered technologies humanity had dreamed of. Faster space travel, better power systems, advanced materials. But there were problems too. Some council species refused to deal with humans at all. 2 small species had left the council completely rather than share it with humanity. There were reports of protests against humans on several worlds. Her assistant John Martinez brought in the latest intelligence report. "Ambassador, you need to see this. The Cracks are making moves." Rachel read the report with growing worry. The Cracks, a military species that had always disliked the Council's peaceful ways, were building up their fleet. Intelligence suggested they saw humanity as either a rival or a possible ally. "Get me a secure line to Admiral Morris," Rachel ordered. Hours later, in Earth's military headquarters, leaders gathered for an emergency briefing. Admiral Frank Morris stood before a display showing the Cracks' fleet positions. "Ladies and gentlemen, we have a situation. The Cracks are mobilizing their military. We don't know if they plan to test us, attack us, or offer an alliance, but we need to be ready for all 3. General Paul Stevens spoke up. "What ships do we have in their area?" "Third Fleet is closest, about 4 weeks away at maximum speed. We have 2 destroyer groups and a cruiser group that could be there in 10 days. President Cooper, attending by video link, made the decision. Send the destroyer groups, but keep them defensive, and open communication with the Cracks leadership. I want to talk to them before anyone starts shooting." The message reached the Cracks' homeworld 12 hours later. To everyone's surprise, the Cracks replied immediately, asking for a face-to-face meeting with human military leaders. Admiral William Nash traveled to the Cracks' homeworld on the Constitution, the same ship that hosted the first meeting with Ambassador Telvin. The Cracks were impressive. They walked on 2 legs and had heavy muscles with armored skin and many eyes. Their homeworld was harsh, a high-gravity planet that had made them into warriors. War Master Krell, supreme leader of the Krax military, met Nash in a fortress that was also the Krax capital. There was no pretending to be polite. "Admiral Nash," Krell said through his translator, his voice a deep rumble, "let us speak directly. My people are warriors. For 2,000 years we have followed the Council's peaceful ways, held back our nature, suppressed our instincts. Then you humans arrived and everything changed." "How so?" Nash asked carefully. "Because you proved that warriors can exist in the Council, that strength is not shameful, that those who can fight can also choose peace." Krell leaned forward. "The Council fears you, Admiral. But my people understand you. We know what you are. And what are we, War Master? Survivors. Fighters. Beings who have looked at darkness and refused to surrender." Krell made a gesture his aide translated as respect. "The Krax wish to propose an alliance with humanity. A military partnership. Together our combined fleets would be unmatched in the galaxy." Nash thought carefully. An alliance with the Krax would give humanity a powerful friend, but it would also confirm the fears of Council species who already didn't trust humans. "War Master Krell, I appreciate the offer, but I need to understand your intentions. Are you proposing defense or something more aggressive?" "Defense," Krell said firmly. "Despite what the Council thinks, we are not conquerors. We are warriors, but we fight only when necessary. However, there are threats in this galaxy the Council refuses to see. Threats that will need military strength to stop." "What threats?" Krell activated a display showing regions of space beyond Council territory. "Out there, Admiral, are civilizations that make even humans look peaceful. Species that conquer and enslave without mercy. The Council has been protected from them only by distance and luck. But that luck is running out. When those threats come, the Council's peaceful fleets won't be enough." Nash studied the display carefully. "You're proposing that humans and Krax become the Council's protectors." "Exactly. Let the peaceful species stay peaceful. Let them focus on art, culture, science. But let those of us who understand war protect them from those who would destroy them." It was tempting, and Nash could see the logic, but he also saw the danger. If humans allied too closely with the Krax, they might become what the Council feared. "War Master, I'll bring your proposal to my government. But I want to be clear. If we form an alliance, it will be defensive with strict rules. We didn't come to space to become conquerors. We came to be part of something better." Krell made a gesture of understanding. "I would expect nothing less, Admiral. That is why we respect you. You have strength but also wisdom. That is rare in this galaxy." 3 months later, the treaty was signed. The agreement established joint military command, shared intelligence, and coordinated operations. But it also included strict rules against aggressive war and required approval from both governments before major military action. The Council's response was mixed. Some felt safer knowing competent military forces would protect them. Others saw it as a new power that might eventually dominate. 5 years later, the prophecy War Master Krell had foreseen came true. A hostile species called the Devourers emerged from the galactic edge. They were biological ships that consumed everything in their path. They attacked a peaceful colony without warning, killing millions. The Council fleet responded, but their peaceful training left them unprepared. The Devourers were pushing toward Council core worlds, and panic was spreading. The call for help reached the human and Krax Joint Command within hours. Admiral Nash didn't hesitate. "All ships prepare for combat. We're going to war." The combined fleet had over 200 ships, half human and half Krax. They jumped into the battle zone and engaged with violence and coordination that shocked everyone. Human tactics combined with Krax ferocity proved devastatingly effective. The Devourers were used to overwhelming peaceful species through numbers. Now they faced opponents who fought with skill and courage. The battle lasted 3 weeks. When it was over, the Devourer threat was eliminated. No Council world had fallen. The cost was high. 27 human ships destroyed, 31 Krax ships lost, thousands of crew killed. But the line had held. After the battle, the Council held an emergency meeting. High Chancellor Vornis spoke with obvious emotion. 5 years ago, when humanity asked to join the Council, I voted against them. I feared what they were. I feared their weapons, their history, their violence. He paused. Today, I admit I was wrong. The chamber was silent.